Welcome to the Barker Podcast Collection.
I suck, you suck, I suck at Call of Duty. You suck. You suck. You suck.
Welcome to the Not Playing Podcast. My name's Rob Howard, and this week I'm joined by
Marcus Hurley.
Okay, yeah, I went to EGX in Tobacco Dock, as I have done for the last 3 years now. I just went on the Thursday, on the opening day, and there was talks there by a number of different speakers. First of which was Ken Levine, who created BioShock, who had some very interesting things to say about how he got his start in games and the kind of games he's working on now. Did a Q&A, people asked questions and stuff, and it sounds really interesting what he's doing, because I think people were trying to guess the kind of game he wouldn't give anything away. He's definitely working with a much smaller team than he was on BioShock by the time that all wound up, but it sounds like he's trying to do something with narrative that's like actually systemic, so it's not like about conversation trees as much as it is like organic character interaction and stuff like that. So that's all that I could really discern. But it was cool to be in the same room with him, and it was very cool. And then after that, they had Raphael, forgot his second name, but he's the creative lead on Prey, and he was talking about Prey. Got to see some not before seen footage of that. You can see it on YouTube now. If you go on the Eurogamer channel, they've put all of it up there now. But yeah, Prey looks very, very cool. Have you seen much about that, Marcus?
No, not at the moment. I've been a little bit slack, actually.
It's alright. Prey's like not a million miles away from BioShock. It's definitely in that kind of System Shock mould. The game looks like it's set on a space station, and there's this alien force called the Typhoon, I think, and you have been kind of cybernetically augmented, and you kind of inject stuff into your eyeball that enables you to have some of the powers that the alien have, and they're kind of like these shadowy shapes that kind of slip around and come in different shapes and sizes, but one of the abilities they have is mimic. They're able to pretend pose as everyday objects like coffee cups and chairs and things like so you kind of are walking around sort of checking, is everything, was that cup there before and stuff like that, but the idea is that obviously you can assume these powers, and eventually you'll be able to do the same thing, so you can like turn into small inanimate objects to get through obstacles if you need to, if you want. So it's by Arcane, the creators of Dishonored, so it's got it shares a lot of the same DNA, and so in the same, it'll be like a very experimental game where like they kind of give you a box of toys and you kind of get through the game however you want. One of the interesting caveats though is that as you absorb more of the alien powers, you kind of absorb their DNA, and so a lot of the security systems in the space station will actually start to think that you're an alien.
Oh,
so
wow.
you'll be picked up as a hostile, so it's kind of a trade-off.
So it's your choice as to how much alien DNA you want to sort of absorb or integrate in order to get the cool abilities, but then there's a trade-off, as you say, then you become hostile in your environment's eyes.
Yeah, well, it's like the more powerful you become, the more difficult the game gets. Yeah. So it's kind of a balance, I think. But it'll be interesting to see whether it does just kind of become a kind of linear difficulty spike in that, obviously it's going to deplete your resources, or will it actually lead to some genuinely interesting situations? because I'm sure you'll be able to kind of use those systems against the enemies. There's one of the other toys you get in the game is like it looks like it's like a foam cannon. So because these things that are coming at you are like sort of incorporeal, you're able to kind of foam them and make them solid, and then you can just smash them, or you can jump up them and use them as a platform. So depending on how you or where they're positioned, you might decide, oh, I'll kill them there because then I can then jump on his head and then get somewhere else.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sorry,
so it looks like a really interesting game.
Just checking out little bits of footage from it. Yeah, it looks quite fun.
Yeah.
Just think it'll be so much fun. It'll be so much fun.
Yeah. So those are the 2 talks I went to. There were some more, but those I decided to have a little wander around the floor. There was a big presence for the Nintendo Switch. I played a game on it called Snake Pass, which involved you controlling a snake around, funnily enough. But to move him around, you had to go left and right very quickly to actually build up any kind of forward momentum. And then you had to hold down buttons to kind of go up and then and tighten your coil around like these sort of climbing frame type scenarios. But it was quite cool because I sort of started to get the hang of it, but it definitely felt like a game that was going to take a little while to master,
Yeah.
And so would be an interesting challenge just to sort of get around because it was such a wildly different idea.
It's kind of weird how they still champion in the, I don't know, to use another term, like a kinetic game where it's based on your movements. Not so much just pointing and shooting, but little things like that and mini games and stuff. I know it's an offshoot of the Wii era, and they're still very much in that mindset. But
this was just with a normal controller.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, this was just with a normal controller. But I know what you're saying. I mean, it's cool that like they're still finding ways of like creating different
It's just
like
gaming,
sort of
but
ways
not gaming
to interact.
in the way that's traditional.
Yeah.
And they still seem to be doing that fairly well. And to be honest, they do get a lot of flack for it and a lot of stick for it. But I think if Nintendo joined the same gaming way that Microsoft and Sony have done, they would just, I reckon they would have fallen by the wayside by now, because you just can't, you can't jump into the same mix with those 2 giants and expect to survive.
Oh yeah, definitely. Snake Pass is on the Nintendo, but it's not by them. It's by Sumo Digital, who I think had something to do with Little Big Planet.
Cool. Okay.
But yeah, they like playing with physics and stuff, so that was quite cool. Another game I played, that was on the Switch, but it was part of the Unreal Showcase, so that was built in Unreal Engine. Also built in Unreal Engine is Little Nightmares, which is coming from Bandai Namco, and this is kind of it's like it's similar to like that the game with the Fred last year. What was that bloody called? Senile. Unravel, that was it. Yeah, so it's kind of looks like that. It's got a very cool art style, but you're basically just playing this little dude and you're wandering around and you're in a kitchen and there's this huge, horrible, weird, like claymation looking chef with a big hatchet cooking away, and you're supposed to sneak around and not get caught by him, because otherwise he'll come running after you and skewer you. But that's all I saw of that. But that's coming out very soon. That's out like this month, and that was cool. What else did I play that was of note? Oh, I had to go on Ukulele. That's just got reviews have come out for that, and it's been widely panned. Apparently, it was made. It was a Kickstarter funded game, and I think the idea was for it to come out. It was like by the people that did Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong Country. It was like Rare, I think, is the company. Yeah. I think it's from some people that used to work for Rare. And so this is like an open world platform game. But I played it and it just seemed like really empty, like there was nothing in it. So I didn't play that for very long. I had a little go of a game called Stories Untold, which has just hit Steam, and it's basically a text adventure, but the way they're marketing it is very much like Stranger Things sort of vibe. But yeah, it's a text adventure, and in the most traditional sense, and yeah, it was okay. I think at the moment you can play the first one for free. It's got 4 volumes to it, and you can play the first one for free right now. And yeah, that was kind of it really. I just had a wander round. They had like a VR space. They had a board gaming space. Oh, actually, I went over to see Infotronic. I think they're called Infotronic, the guys that did Prison Architect. And they last year had 2 games side by side, and I talked about them then. And basically they were sort of saying, vote on the game that you want us to make.
Oh, really?
And yeah, is it Introversion maybe? Is it Introversion? Introversion sounds right. Yeah, Introversion. So yeah, they're making a game called oh god, this is useless of me. It's the one that I was talking about last year. Basically, you go around with this kind of little gun that sprays light everywhere, and if it's near to you, it paints red, and if it's far away, it paints kind of a bluey colour. And so it's just absolute blackness, and then as you go around, you're kind of painting the world that you're exploring. It's very trippy, but yeah, I went there, I was like, oh, you actually this is the one I voted for, and they were like, yep, we're making it. So that was cool. I'm going to Google it now because it's really fucking me off. Introversion software. Where are they? Games. Oh, here we go. Scanner Sombra. Found it. So yeah, that's the name of that. Yes, there was a really good presence there. Lots of different things. They had board games there, but I didn't stick around too long for that. But yeah, I always recommend EGX to anyone who wants to just chill out and try out some different things. It's a 3-day event, and they always have different speakers. They've got 2 tracks. They've got like actual developer talks, and there's like sort of a more kind of relaxed kind of
casual atmosphere,
talky area. They have career fair there as well if you're interested in getting into games. But
might have to put it in my diary for next year.
Yeah, well, I always shout about it, and I always try and make an effort to get down for at least one day.
Yeah.
I normally go there, and I'm there for the beginning, and I'll sort of leave sort of about lunchtime or something. But yeah, it's cool for just 2 or 3 days. If you fancy a day out in London, you can do that. Then jump on the tube and hit Soho or something, or Camden. You know,
nice.
I had a pretty good day. That was the day I went to see Free Fire. So
oh, cool. Yeah. So yeah, you really made a day of it. Nice.
Yeah. Just a couple of other bits I wanted to mention game related. Horizon Zero Dawn has shifted 2.5 million copies in 2 weeks, which means that Sony have another franchise on their hands, which is nice because it's really good. I'm not jealous at all. Well, that game's not going anywhere, so it's certainly another feather in Sony's hat. And finally, I bought another game called Torment, Tides of Numenera, which is the spiritual sequel to a game called Planescape Torment, which came out a long time ago. It's a 2D RPG in the old school way. It's quite cool. I'm about 6 hours into it now, and so far you basically wake up and you play basically a guy who's a cast-off. So basically there's this kind of the changing god is a character in the game, and basically he's immortal, and basically when his body wears out or he builds a better one, he moves his soul into a new body, and then that old body is left behind but becomes its own person, and so you play the most recent cast off, And throughout the game, you meet other cast-offs. At the moment, I'm searching for one who's going to help me in one of the main quest. But each area you get to is absolutely packed with people to talk to and little stories going on. And it's not a traditional fantasy world. It's completely out there. It's like sci-fi, fantasy, extra dimensions. It's like nothing else you've ever played, unless you played the original Planescape Torment. But this is not an official follow-up, nor is it set in that world. It's just built in the spirit of that, you know?
I'm looking at the visuals now. I'm absolutely loving the way it looks.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just 2D.
Yeah, but it's I always use the word lush, and I never use that. It's just visually, everything's just there. It's like each scene is a painting, and you just make your way around it. It's almost like how the old films were, you know, with like big painted backdrops that just made everything look larger than life. And it's just
an awful lot to take in. And you'll find, you know, I've been chipping away at it, like sort of half hour here, a little bit on my lunch break at work, and basically you'll just find yourself in one area. And when I like save my game, I have to sort of give it a kind of descriptive name because it's got quite a good journal system, but it's kind of difficult to sometimes keep track of all the different storylines that are going on. I mean, at the moment, I've probably got about 7 sub-quests or side quests and 1 main quest. But they you end up going to the same areas, and they all kind of links together quite nicely. There's not a lot of combat in it at all, but you do have, when you go into combat, it's called a crisis. And I do quite like the fact that they've made it fully turn-based, because I find the pause play mechanic that they use in Pillars of Eternity, which this game uses the engine for that. It's basically it's a modern version of the old Unity engine, or not Unity engine, whatever the engine was that powered Baldur's Gate.
Oh, cool.
It's a Unity powered modernized version of that. So that's why these guys went to Obsidian and said, "Can we borrow your engine, please? It does exactly what we want." But whereas Pillars of Eternity was more of a traditional kind of hack and slash, this is much more in the vein of Planescape, where combat, there isn't really any in it. I mean, I have had a few bits of combat in the game, but you are generally using your abilities more in conversations or in just encounters. Like, you'll click on a thing and it will say, like, for example, there was an area I was running around last night, and they had like these alarms that you would signal to try and send the enemies in a certain direction to distract them, while you went somewhere else and then used your speed attribute to pull these eggs out of these egg sacs, because someone wants you to collect them. So it's an interesting kind of game. It's definitely up my street. It's something a bit different, something I can ponder a bit with, and not get my heart racing like Horizon Zero Dawn does. But yeah, if you fancy something a bit sort of like different and
definitely
a cool RPG to play, then give it a go. The reason I got this was because Mass Effect Andromeda got slated, which is why there was no show last week. So yeah, that's all I've got. I don't know if you've got anything gaming wise you want to mention.
I'm just seeing it in motion, because I saw a few screenshots, but seeing it in motion, it's wow. I really do want to play this. I think I've been missing the tiny sprite running around the big map RPG, because it's almost isometric but hidden, because the way that everything in some areas, you know, the way those isometric RPGs were, where you're almost on a diamond grid, but because of the way the background is, it kind of changes. Not always in that sense, but it looks really cool. Actually, it looks quite nice.
Yeah, I never finished Planescape Torment back in the day. I think because it was based on the old D&D rules, I got to a point where I did actually have to do some combat, or I don't know. It was a long time ago. I just couldn't get through it.
I was going to say, what's the learning? Have you found much of a learning curve with this, or is it pretty
Not really.
easy going.
It explains everything quite well. It's got some interesting mechanics, like you have these slots you can equip things in that give you like one-off abilities. I've not used any of them yet, but it's just kind of getting to know people. Right at the start, actually, it's quite an interesting choice you have to make. You start off on your own, but you immediately meet two people, but they're bickering with one another.
Okay.
And you have one combat where you've kind of got both of them in your party, and then after that, they have a falling out, and you have a choice of picking one or the other or neither.
Oh, wow.
So you're kind of forced to make a choice, and that's kind of what I'm interested in with an RPG after playing like loads of Skyrim and stuff, where I felt like I was almost on rails just running through it all at the end. Is a game that actually responds to you. And I believe in the game as well, there's like an actual murder mystery where if you rest up or don't spend time actively taking care of the investigation, more people will die, potentially closing off quests and stuff that you could do.
Oh,
so,
wicked.
it's very well thought out game from the sound of it.
That's cool. That's got a good depth to it, I think.
Yeah, and
nice.
apparently it's not mega long either. It's like 30 hours. And I'm six in now.
Well. Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
No, I think I'm definitely going to add that to my Steam pile, but I'll actually play this one as opposed to the.
Well, it's.
I don't look at my Steam pile list anymore. It's just, it's mildly embarrassing.
It's a thing. Cool. Did you have any gaming stuff you wanted to mention?
Well, not really. I don't know. I've just been sort of trying to look up bits and pieces. Mainly just crying over Horizon Dawn Zero. That was almost a system purchase for me, to be honest. It was pretty damn close.
Yeah, well, I reckon Christmas time, Black Friday, you might find a few deals.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's gonna have to be that's gonna be D-Day for me.
Yeah,
get the old credit card out.
I just wanted to end the show by saying that I think overall, I did tweet this out the other day, but I think Not Playing is for the most part going to be monthly now. We may have some stuff happening in between shows, so there might be the odd fortnightly one as well with some different people, maybe from the Not Listening podcast. That was discussed the other week. Whether that will actually happen or not remains to be seen. But I think it should. I think we are on for that. So hopefully, watch this space.
This has been the Not Playing podcast in partnership with notlistening.co.uk, where you can also hear myself, Marcus and Ian talk about movies and TV on the Not Watching podcast, and Adam, Ash and Will talk about all manner of funny things on the Not Listening podcast. You can email us at notplayingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet at or follow us on Twitter at notplayingpod. You can find the show notes for this show at notlistening.co.uk, and if you're listening to us on iTunes, then please do give us a review. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for listening. See ya.
Useless as a stripper with no booty. My friend